and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Vinu Sandhu. Let's take a look at the stories for the day.
इस बार मनाली चलते हैं।
नहीं गोवा।
We Indians disagree on everything, but we agree. SBI is the banker to every Indian.
SBI से ट्रैक्टर लोन लिया, पाजी ये 100% सही किया।
SBI is the banker to every Indian.
If Zomato delivers on its promise, you may soon be able to relish your favorite biryani, momos or coffee within 10 minutes of ordering them. Zomato has promised to deliver food in this tight time frame, becoming arguably the first company in the world to do so. Zomato founder Deepinder Goyal felt that the 30-minute food delivery time meant the delivery was too slow, and if they didn't make it obsolete, someone else would. So what does this promised pace mean for the food delivery ecosystem? Watch this report to find out.
Zomato founder and CEO Deepinder Goyal pulled a surprise on Monday when he announced a pilot project to deliver food items in just 10 minutes. The announcement divided the social media. Those in favor said that they will now get their french fries and burgers before they go soggy and soft drinks before they lose the sting, while another section alleged that this rush will endanger the life of delivery partners. It also gave birth to a barrage of memes, with one of them saying that he wanted his food delivered even before it was ordered. The criticism forced the Zomato CEO to come forward with another round of clarification. The first one had come with Monday's announcement itself. CEO Goyal claimed that Zomato does not force riders to deliver food faster. In fact, he claimed that delivery partners are not even told about the promised time of delivery and that time optimization does not happen on the road. Goyal said that the riders are neither penalized for late deliveries nor incentivized for on-time deliveries. He also claimed that 10-minute deliveries would lead to lesser time spent on the road per order. Concerns, however, remain.
देखिए आज के तारीख में उतना सख्त जरूरत जोमेटो को क्या था 10 मिनट में डिलीवरी करने का। एक तो उतना एसेंशियल जरूरत तो नहीं है। आज के तारीख में फूड 10 मिनट में डिलीवरी ना होने पे किसी की जान चले जा सकती। नंबर 1। नंबर 2, ये देखिए कंपनी के बीच में एक कंपनी से और एक कंपनी के बीच में कंपटीशन के लिए और यहाँ पे डिलीवरी बॉय को स्पार्क करके खेला जा रहा। जो फील्ड पे डिलीवरी बॉय है उससे बगैर पूछे कि ये इतना बड़ा डिसीजन लेना गलत है। पहले 30 मिनट के प्रॉब्लम्स तो सॉल्व करो। जैसे कि 30 मिनट के अंदर आप देखे होंगे मल्टीपल प्रॉब्लम्स है। ट्रैफिक का वायलेंस होना, रूल्स ब्रेक करना, ज़ेब्रा क्रॉसिंग भी नहीं देखना, सिग्नल्स नहीं देखना, रॉन्ग रूट पे आना, एक्सीडेंट हो जाना, डिलीवरी बॉय की जान चले जाना। जब इंश्योरेंस क्लेम मिलता, लॉस ऑफ पे नहीं दिया जाता, उसको 2 महीने 3 महीने के लिए डॉक्टर रेस्ट के लिए बोलता, बेड रेस्ट। वो डिलीवरी बॉय कैसा उसकी फैमिली चला सकता। जितने भी कस्टमर्स है हमारे साथ है, सारे कस्टमर्स के आप ट्वीट पढ़ के देखिए, कोई कस्टमर ये नहीं चाह रहा कि हाँ डिलीवरी मस्ट एंड शुड है। डिलीवरी बॉयज का ओपिनियन लो, डिलीवरी बॉयज क्या कर रहे हैं, कभी सर्वे करो, ग्राउंड पे आइए, डिलीवरी बॉय के हालात देखिए। कस्टमर कोई भी 10 मिनट में डिलीवरी नहीं चाह रहा। हम नहीं चाह रहे कि ये कंपनी ऐसा फैसला ले। भी मेडिकल इमरजेंसी भी नहीं होता, ये फूड है, ग्रोसरी है।
Zomato, meanwhile, expects that prices for customers will come down by 50% without affecting the incomes for restaurants and delivery partners. CEO Deepinder Goyal said this new category is born out of customer preferences as they are increasingly seeking quicker answers to their needs. He said that sorting restaurants by fastest delivery time is one of the most used features on the Zomato app. How does the company plan to execute this? Let us find out. The 10-minute food delivery service called Zomato Instant will rely on a dense network of food finishing stations that will be located at certain high-demand customer neighborhoods. These stations will house 20 to 30 best-selling, standardized menu items from various restaurants based on hyperlocal preferences and demand that can be dispatched in 2 minutes.
There is nothing like a need as far as customer is concerned, which is to be done in 10 minutes. Because most of us do not have anything which we need like right now. If any sane person like you or me, somebody asks me, do you want your food to be delivered instantaneously? Why would I say no? First of all, we can't deliver in 10 minutes. I've tried it out. if you really want something in 10 minutes, our own kitchen is there. Like in case of groceries, your neighborhood kirana store is always an option if you desperately need something. To me, Zomato is trying to change its game because if you see the performance of the stock, I think they need to change the game every month to somehow keep the investor interest alive. But to the consumers, according to me, there is no game changing in this. If in 30 to 60 minute delivery, Zomato has not yet shown any sign of profit, at these low prices with discounts, if Zomato cannot make money, to make this promise that, look, customers will get something even cheaper, Mr. Goel talked about half the price. If there was a convenience fee for quick delivery, and then you ask the same question from the customer, the reaction would be very different. What you would buy which requires immediate top-up. You know, your child is crying, they want a packet of wafers which you don't have. You have guests who have dropped in, you have no soda or some beverages. The size of such kind of purchase, impulse purchase items, pan-India theoretically, is not even $2 to $5 billion compared to $650 billion of the food and grocery market. Now let's come to food services. If you're saying that, look, I'm going to only supply samosas and biryanis and a few other things which people tend to order most and require almost no prep time. I would tend to argue that, look, of whatever the food delivery services market is, this would constitute maybe not more than 2 or 3% of the total food services market.
The backlash will not deter the startup from piloting Zomato Instant with 4 stations in Haryana's Gurugram for next month. Zomato believes that its experience of delivering 1.35 billion orders across India will help it innovate and stay ahead of the competition. Ultra-fast grocery delivery from the likes of Blinkit and Zepto became all the rage last year, and Zomato wants to replicate this with food delivery. It will be arguably the first in the world to try out this model. Zomato explained that its in-station robotics will ensure that the food is hot and fresh at the time it is picked up by the delivery partner. We will soon know how it manages to balance its business objectives with the safety of delivery executives and the quality of food.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं? ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं? वो तो सबसे आसान है। तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
It's not just the food delivery segment. The winds of change are blowing through the IT sector as well. Tech companies are increasingly venturing into smaller cities in search of talent, and they're finding a good amount of it too. So much so that these IT majors are going a step forward to set up offices in cities like Coimbatore, Bhubaneswar, Lucknow, and Jaipur. In our next report, we dive into the reasons for this shift from the big metros.
In February, it was reported that Accenture was setting up offices in Jaipur and Coimbatore. With this move, the company aims to access more talent and give its employees greater flexibility regarding where they want to work from. In the past, Accenture has primarily operated in Indian metros. In March, IBM Consulting told a Financial Daily that it was opening new IBM client innovation centers in Kochi and Coimbatore. And in December last year, Tata Consultancy Services had announced that it would invest $100 million to establish a new outsourcing facility in Indore. Infosys has also earmarked $27 million for a software center in Indore. The IT giant is also investing a similar amount to set up a campus in Nagpur. In September last year, Wipro had opened a software hub in Visakhapatnam that will employ 2,000 people. Meanwhile, Zoho is taking things a notch further. In March last year, it had announced that it would open additional satellite offices which seat 20 to 30 employees in rural and non-urban areas across India. Then, in September, Zoho said that it had plans to hire about 2,000 people for its rural offices by December end. These are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader trend that started sometime before the pandemic for some companies and then found broader traction with the overall tech industry once the full effects of the pandemic were felt. Citing a Parikh consultant study, a financial daily has said that IT-enabled services and engineering services companies have created a physical presence in 27 Tier 2 cities. These cities include the likes of Kakinada, Vizag and Vijayawada. Clearly, Tier 2 cities have been the biggest beneficiaries as tech firms look beyond the metros. However, reports and industry insiders suggest that Tier 3 cities also stand to benefit. NASSCOM Senior VP and Chief Strategy Officer Sangeeta Gupta told Business Standard that the digitization tsunami, as well as the acceptance and expanding investment in new technologies, has raised demand for digital skills. This, she says, has resulted in a talent war that is widening the demand-supply imbalance. Businesses can overcome the talent shortage by recruiting workers in smaller cities, thanks to innovative working models that remove geographical restrictions. According to Gupta, with significant cost arbitrage, thriving infrastructure, and smart city efforts, Tier 2 cities have become more appealing for tapping into talent pools. The NASSCOM Strategic Review 2022 revealed that currently over 35 technology companies have 50+ delivery locations and are further growing their coverage across Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Tech Mahindra has been one of the early adopters of this trend, and the factors that have driven its decisions shed light on why IT companies are aggressively looking beyond the metros.
The logic really was very clear that we wanted to tap the potential of towns that were near academia. But more importantly, because of this whole pandemic and the great resignation, Tier 1 towns were getting heated up. Heated up, when I say, I mean, one, there was no talent available. There was a greater, what we call ONJ, which means when you make the offer, people don't join. And third, of course, the cost was skyrocketing actually, and almost 2 to 3 times higher. So we went into these 9 cities and we clearly went with the objective of hiring niche skills and at an optimum cost, and where we could have lesser dropouts and more longevity of service.
So, what are the other factors driving this trend? First, the adoption of the work from home model due to the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted that employees don't need to be based in metro cities to execute projects. Many young employees had to return to the smaller cities from where they hailed due to work from home. Companies will find that some of them might be hesitant in returning to metros with their hour-long office commutes and sky-high rents. As dining and entertainment options in these smaller cities catch up with the bigger metros, there's even less of a motivation for young graduates to leave their hometowns. Tech companies are also adopting worker-centric models thanks to the pandemic, and they have good reasons to do so. Microsoft conducted a survey of 30,000 employees and found that 80% wanted to work remotely. A Zerodha survey found that only 8% of employees wanted to return to the office full-time. Meanwhile, 67% said that they would move to Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities and towns if working from home was allowed permanently.
In a post-pandemic environment, where hybrid workplace and work from anywhere trends are picking up in a massive way, the future for flex space is extremely promising. Particularly in the sector of IT/ITES, we've seen a lot of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities picking up demand, particularly cities such as Coimbatore, Indore, Ahmedabad are seeing rapid demand in growth for office spaces, driven finally by the availability of a lot of good talent who have an increasing preference to stay near home, where particularly the cost of living is lower, and particularly as we see the future evolve, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, particularly from the dimension of hub and spoke model, is going to continue having an extremely strong demand.
With smaller cities now coming up on the IT and technology sector's radar, growth, employment opportunities, and development should spread more evenly across the country, instead of being limited to a handful of metros. This would be a welcome development if the trend sustains.
यार
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया।
तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है। Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Meanwhile, IT stocks helped benchmark indices bounce back into the positive zone yesterday. But how will the markets behave over the next few days given the rise in fuel prices? How are analysts interpreting the recent moves, and what do they think about inflation and its impact on market sentiment? Let's find out.
After a hike of 25 rupees per litre in diesel prices for bulk buyers over the weekend, the government raised petrol and diesel prices by 80 paise a litre each. Domestic cooking gas or LPG prices were increased by 50 rupees per cylinder, ending over 4.5-month election-related hiatus in rate revision amid rising crude oil prices. The government had kept the prices of auto fuels unchanged since November 2021, despite Russia's war with Ukraine that pushed crude oil prices to a 14-year high of over $140 a barrel. Retail prices of petrol and diesel had been frozen since October 2021, when crude oil prices were hovering around $80 a barrel. Analysts expected a steeper hike in petrol and diesel prices around March 10, when the outcome of the assembly polls across 5 key states of Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Goa, and Manipur was announced. G. Chokalingam of Economics Research, for instance, said hiking bulk prices for diesel is comparatively less inflationary than hiking retail prices of petrol and diesel.
Market was expecting a much higher dose across the board, so therefore this is not a concern for the market. The more concern is, the Ukraine and the oil price.
Let's now go to Ambarish Baliga, an independent market analyst, to understand how he has interpreted the development and its likely impact on the markets.
The increase in bulk diesel prices by 25 rupees is clearly an indication of the gap which the oil marketing companies have been absorbing in the last few weeks and could not pass it on for political reasons. Even now, the retail prices have remained stable. This would mean more of the unorganized as well as the lower end of the bulk buyers shifting to retail pumps to buy diesel, whereas the large organized players would be at a disadvantage, buying the fuel at about 25% more expensive. This would lead to increase in transportation costs. Among the bulk buyers are railways, state and city transport corporations, as well as the large integrated logistics players. It would be inflationary as private players will pass on the increase in cost to consumers, whereas government bodies may absorb the same for some time. It's only a question of time when the retail prices move up, unless there's a sharp decline in crude prices in the next few weeks, which doesn't seem probable now.
Analysts believe inflation will trend higher amid rise in oil prices, as the solution to the ongoing geopolitical crisis is not in sight yet. Sonal Verma of Nomura expects retail inflation to average 6.3% year-on-year in 2022, with core inflation likely to trend above 6.5% throughout most of the year. A.K. Prabhakar of IDBI Capital 2 believes that the markets have not yet fully priced in the impact of a hike in fuel prices and its impact on inflation. Let's listen in to what he said.
For the fuel price increase, No, but there is a hope that as we are getting crude from Russia, now we are getting very good discount on that crude. But one more factor which we need to understand, now only two companies can refine that low grade oil. Now one is Reliance and the other is SR, which is again owned by a Russian company. Now they have the capacity, it gives the refining cost is slightly higher there. No, and Indian Oil or HPCL, which is now taking the crude from Russia, doesn't have that kind of refinery, so there is a higher cost involvement. So even the discount will get slightly neutralized. It will not be the full benefit. No, so we have not factored in. If we factor in the fuel prices 10 to 12 rupees hike, now I think market can correct another 8 to 10%. Yes, sir. I don't think market is pricing in full fuel price hike.
With no major economic releases in India during the week, the markets are likely to remain range-bound. Stock-specific action will continue.
तुम इतना डर गए? अब क्या किया?
शेयर्स में ट्रेडिंग।
तुम्हें 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
ओए, अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर मिलते हैं रिसर्च टूल्स, पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज भी। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है Investing made easy and reporting with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
After markets, let us shift our focus to the Russia-Ukraine war, which has entered the 28th day today. On the 19th of March, Russia is said to have used hypersonic missiles called Kinzhal, or dagger in English, to destroy a weapons depot in Ukraine's western region. According to media reports, this was the first recorded use of such missiles in this war. But what are hypersonic missiles? Our next report offers a peek into this nuclear-capable weapons system.
The term hypersonic denotes speed that's 5 times faster than sound. The speed of sound is around 760 miles per hour at sea level. This means hypersonic weapons can travel at speeds of at least 3,800 miles per hour. However, ballistic missiles also travel at hypersonic speeds, especially in the re-entry phase. So, what sets apart new age hypersonic weapons from the missiles of the past? According to US Congressional Research Service, hypersonic weapons don't follow a predetermined, arched trajectory like ballistic missiles usually do. Furthermore, they can maneuver on the way to their target. In effect, you get a very fast, low-flying and highly maneuverable missile that could prove to be too quick and agile for existing missile defense systems to react to. New age hypersonic weapons fall in two broad categories. These are cruise missiles and glide vehicles. Glide vehicles are launched from a ballistic missile. Once they reach the required distance and speed, they glide to their target at hypersonic speeds. Hypersonic cruise missiles might employ scramjet engines that enable them to cruise at a steady altitude and with sustained speeds. Now let's come to the missile that was recently used by Russia. According to US think tank Center for Strategic and International Studies, the Kinzhal is an air-launched ballistic missile. It is nuclear capable and it travels at 10 times the speed of sound. It is understood to be capable of overcoming many existing air defense systems. The missile has a range of approximately 1500 to 2000 kilometers. Note that this weapon is neither a glide vehicle nor a cruise missile. Therefore, it might be somewhat misleading to put it in the same category as the new age, advanced hypersonic weapons that are being developed by the major powers. The US, China and Russia possess the most advanced hypersonic weapons programs. However, Australia, India, Germany, France and Japan are also developing hypersonic weapons. So, where does India stand? India is close to fielding the BrahMos 2, which is a hypersonic cruise missile under development in collaboration with Russia. As a part of its Hypersonic Technology Demonstrator Vehicle program, India is also developing an indigenous hypersonic cruise missile. In fact, India had successfully tested a Mark 6 scramjet in June 2019 and September 2020.
इसको 30 डिग्रीज कर देते हैं। अरे नहीं यार, 45 डिग्री सही है।
We Indians disagree on everything, but we agree. SBI is the banker to every Indian.
SBI का वीडियो KYC सेविंग्स अकाउंट। Finally I agree.
SBI is the banker to every Indian.
The village where the missile landed lies in a region which shares a 50-kilometer long border with NATO member Romania. That's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into our website www.business-standard.com. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with more. Stay tuned and thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.